So our topic for today, as mentioned, is about mental health, counseling, and crisis management. Our speaker for today is a health and wellness guru. She is also an advocate of mental health. Currently, she manages the implementation of the substance abuse or dependence and the mental health case management projects under SHIP Foundation. Just like most of us, or just like most of the advocates, she started as a volunteer, and because of that volunteering activity, it changed her view and attitude towards life. She aspires to contribute to peace and harmony in every opportunity she gets by teaching empathy. Okay, so without further ado, let us all welcome our speaker for today, Miss Ivy Cristel Hapitan.
All right, perfect. Hi, everyone. So quickly, what's the purpose of this lecture? To find out what is mental health, how can we promote health-seeking behaviors, what motivational interviewing technique can you use for basic counseling that also promotes empathy, what are the self-care practices you can cultivate to avoid burnout. The meat of my talk will be the last 2 points: how to provide basic counseling in all settings, whether that's anxiety, depression, if you are talking to someone who has self-harm tendencies, and then also the last one, self-care practices. Right. Okay, what is mental health versus mental illness? Because time and again, these terms have been interchanged. Mental health, generally, we all have this. It's our general well-being, while how do I see my slide? Kasi nagko-cover yung here, hide from me. Okay. While mental illness, an illness that affects the way people think, feel, behave, or interact with others. Mental illnesses are health conditions involving changes in emotion, thinking, or behavior, or a combination of these. Mental illnesses are associated with distress and or problems functioning in social, work, or family activities. Okay. So very briefly, you'll see on the left side, it's an infographic of a global initiative from World Health Organization on how they would like to address mental health and support about 100 million people from 2019 to 2023. And on the right side, you'll see facts on mental health. Very quickly, the most salient point for us would be almost 800,000 people die by suicide every year. One person dies from suicide every 40 seconds. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in individuals aged 15 to 29 years old. Okay, as much as having a global initiative is important, it's also quite essential that we have our own law. So we don't only support people with mental health illnesses or mental health conditions, but you as practitioners, as healthcare professionals, you would be guided what to do, and you can also safeguard your own mental health. So the law aims to establish a national mental health policy directed towards improving the health of the population in schools, workplaces, and communities. Underscoring the basic right of all Filipinos to mental health, it also highlights the balanced delivery of mental health services, whether that's community-based or hospital-based, with more focus on persons with psychiatric, neurologic, and psychosocial health needs, and overcoming society's attitudinal challenges that they may live free from stigma and discrimination. A few highlights of Mental Health Act. This law grants protection to persons availing psychiatric, neurologic, and psychosocial health services. You may have observed maybe on social media when you watch the news or interacting with people, there's more awareness of this now, and services are so much more available and accessible. Some clinics even provide discounted rates of psychological tests, and some of them even offer it for free, whether that's their hotline or one-on-one support. The second one is recognize rights of family members, caregivers, or appointed legal representatives to receive appropriate psychosocial support and participate in all activities involving the service users. So very important for you as healthcare practitioners to also know what are your rights, what's your scope of work, and hanggang saan ka ba. para to avoid burnout. All right, the third one, reinforce the mental health professionals' right to a safe and supportive environment and to participate in continuous professional development programs. So right now, there are so many training programs for us. You can be a mental health aide. You can take different kinds of training when it comes to motivational interviewing. And we will be learning one of the more popular motivational interviewing framework later on. Okay, what's our situation locally? 1 in 5 adult Filipinos suffer from mental or psychiatric disorders, an average of 88 reported cases of mental illness per 100,000 Filipinos. All right, just to highlight what is mental illness and what it is not. Mental illness is common. It is treatable. People who suffer from mental illness can and do lead productive and fulfilling lives. What it is not, the result of poor parenting or bad behavior, an indication of personal weakness, a manifestation of an evil spirit, or caused by poverty. Factors. So on the left side, these factors will likely be observed by mental health professionals like psychiatrists, licensed clinical psychologists, and the factors you see on the right side would likely be something that you can observe. So let's start with the first few factors, biological factors such as genes, physical illnesses, injury, or brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or a history of abuse, family history of mental health problems. Okay, one of the more popular myths. Personality weakness or character flaws cause mental health problems. People with mental health problems can snap out of it if they try hard enough. I guess one of the few popular phrases that we have here in the Philippines would be, let go mo na lang yan, move on, okay lang yan, or some people would be judged for showing signs of weakness or sadness. Yung Pinoy ka, you have to be tough, you have to be relentlessly resilient. So stuff like that. And additional factors that could guide us when we provide basic counseling. So illnesses, stress, sleep deprivation, or exhaustion, or it's their energy is constantly drained. They're always tired, no matter how much time they sleep or no matter what kind of effort they put into resting. For some reason, it's really difficult for them to rest. And then poor nutrition or hunger. There are so many common types of mental health disorders, but we will focus on these two, anxiety and depression, because these two are the most common when we are supporting people living with HIV. Anxiety, a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. I can't hear anyone and see anyone. Doc Kate, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so thank you. All right. So anxiety, it's very complex, similar to depression. Kasi all of us, we can be anxious. We can experience some kind of anxiety. But what's the difference between anxiety, the everyday kind of anxiety that anyone can experience, and anxiety disorder? Okay. So what are the signs of anxiety disorder? There are physical signs. For example, excessive sweating could be from your hands, from any part of your body. It could be an unexplainable behavior of avoiding certain places, people, events, or things. But having said that, we can also experience this, right? We can also experience excessive sweating, excessive worrying, like all when we think of our day, the moment we wake up, do you start to think about what problems you need to solve during the day and how does that affect you? How do you feel also a sense of worry na, oh no, baka hindi ko matapos yung kailangan kong gawin. Oh no, parang this is too much on my plate for today. Tapos there might be some unexpected events pa na mangyari. A patient could visit you na hindi mo inaasahan would visit you and might present you with other complex, I guess, cases or problem. So ano ba talaga ang difference ng anxiety disorder and just our everyday anxiety? Pag disorder, every little thing you worry about, every solution becomes a problem. And anxiety disorder is a group. It's pretty broad because there are different kinds of anxiety disorders. So, but let's focus on something called GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. For GAD, like I mentioned earlier, every kind of solution can be a problem to you. For example, when the moment you wake up and you're worried already about something, for example, just leaving your house is already worrisome because you might see people you don't want to see, you might encounter a situation that feels uncomfortable for you. How is that different from someone who is just stressed out pagdating sa trabaho? Kapag stressed out ka lang pagdating sa trabaho, you may still have some resources, some physical strength that will help you decide, that will make you get out of bed and help you leave your house without taking any medication, without having a panic attack, or without having a breakdown. Someone who has an anxiety disorder, the moment they open their eyes, there's already a sense of overwhelm. There's already cues in their body that could lead to a panic attack unless they can resource, unless they know how to support themselves, or unless they are already supported with medication or psychotherapy. And then we'll explore on this more as we go along. Okay, here are the physical signs that you can observe. Frequent headaches, including migraines, gastrointestinal problems, unexplained headaches and pains, excessive fatigue, sleep disturbance. For gastrointestinal problems, it can be anything from diarrhea, the excessive fatigue, they are constantly tired. No, even if they try to relax, they can't relax. So again, that shows the difference between anxiety disorder and someone who's just going through some anxious feelings. For example, how do you relax? How do you take your day off? How do you take care of yourself? Do you watch Netflix? Do you go to the mall? Do you work out? Do you walk in the park? Someone who has anxiety disorder, when they start to think about these things on how to support themselves because they want to help themselves, they will think about it, but then it poses problems. For example, if they think about, okay, I'll go to the park today to help myself, maybe walking will clear my mind. The moment they think of that solution, another problem will arise. Oh, but there might be a lot of people in the park. Oh, pero baka may ashfall pa. Or ang hirap bumangon. I feel too tired. There are so many obstacles in their way. Okay. All right, build up responsive resources. So, how can we help someone who's going through anxieties? These are a few techniques that are easy to remember and easy to practice. So, the first one is a breathing technique. It's called tactical breathing, and we'll explore another one later on. But can we all try the breathing technique? Rad and Dokit, can we all practice this now?
Okay.
Sige, okay. So my only request is you sit down. It's okay if you prefer to stand up. If you're very sleepy, you can stand up. Otherwise, please sit down and avoid leaning too far back. So feel your feet touch the ground. If you are wearing high heels, if it's all right, please take it off and really feel your feet touch the ground. When you sit down, you can step your feet apart as wide as your hips. You can rest your hands on top of your lap. You can open your palms to face the ceiling. You can either simply gaze forward, but since you're probably looking at your laptop, you'll probably get distracted. Now, you can either close your eyes or you can gaze down. If you choose to gaze down, please avoid bowing down, avoid dropping your head down. So keep your head lifted above your heart or above your chest. And when you gaze down, avoid moving your head around. You can gaze at the tip of the nose or you can gaze at a looking point, a focus point. You can choose. Table ba yan? If you can see your laptop, then just look at maybe the keyboard or something. Okay, so once you've gotten your position, once your feet are resting down, feet are open apart, once your hands are resting on top of your lap and your head rests very nicely above your chest, whether your eyes are closed or you're gazing down, start to soften your tongue and upper palate. You can even part your lips very, very slightly. You can feel the moisture inside your mouth, the watery sensation inside your mouth. Unclench your teeth, loosen up the jaw. Soften anything that feels tough in the body. Soften anything that feels like a rough edge, a tension. Anything that feels like a very tight muscular contraction. For now, kindly release that. Once you begin to feel that your body has settled down, once your body has started to feel at ease, then you can begin to observe your breath, simply observing your inhale and your exhale. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. If your lips are still parted, you can close your lips, but if that will tighten your jaw, you can simply part your lips, but very, very slightly, as long as you can remember to breathe in and out through the nose. Now, I will be counting your breath. You will be inhaling for 4 counts, retaining the breath for 4 counts, and exhaling your breath for 4 counts. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4. Please hold your breath right now so you all breathe together. Inhale through the nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. In. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try this out on your own. I'll give you a few seconds. Inhale for 4 counts through the nose. Hold your breath for 4 counts. Exhale through the nose for 4 counts. Then whatever or wherever breath cycle you are in right now, let go of the breath technique. It's oftentimes called tactical breathing. If your eyes were fully closed, begin to open your eyes, look forward. You can sit in a manner that feels most comfortable to you. If you were standing up, you can sit down again. Okay, were you able to follow that, Doc Kate and Rad, or was that too fast?
Yes, I did it.
Okay,
Muntik
so
na ako nakatulog.
Actually, kung nakita niyo ako sa
okay,
video, akala niyo siguro patay na ako, pero humihinga po ako noon.
okay, that's a helpful feedback. Bakit tayo inaantok? It's because sometimes when we're very, very tired, and then the moment we actually practice something that will calm down our system, that's the very common after effect. Aantukin tayo. Some people really fall asleep and start snoring even if they are sitting down. And later on, in a while, when we start to talk about depression, or if you know someone who's actually taking antidepressants, one of the effect of taking antidepressants during the first 2 to 4 weeks is papatulugin ka. Ipaparest ka talaga niya. So this breathing technique, I modified it. So it's 4-4-4, generally called tactical breathing. This is used widely and very helpful to people, even those with PTSD. Some people modify this with exhaling through the mouth. Kaya lang, I notice that sometimes when we exhale out through the mouth, nagiging shallow yung breath. So I just modified it with exhaling through your nose. However, if you feel like you need to take sigh out breaths, for example, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth very gently, that's okay to begin with. You can try this like for about 1 minute, or like what you did earlier, mga 3 complete breath cycles of 4-4-4. So easy to remember. Okay, moving on. 3 ways to relate to and engage the mind. Why the mind? It's because we can't really control our thoughts. There are just thousands of thoughts running in the mind in a day, and there's just no way to control those random thoughts or familiar thoughts that run through the mind. So one of the first steps that you can practice on your own and also share it with your clients or patients is to be with it. For example, if you're working with someone who has anxiety, ano ba yung worries niya or concerns niya? And you will learn more about this when we get to motivational interviews. So be with it. Be with the discomfort muna. Contain the discomfort. The second one, try to decrease what is painful or harmful. You can even go as far as decrease what is bothersome or worrisome. Decrease the thoughts that make you feel restless or worthless. Decrease the thoughts of making you hopeless or helpless. So how do you do that? Whenever we have painful or harmful thoughts, we feel a discomfort in the body. We feel sensations. For example, contraction in the chest, contraction in the belly. And these contractions are intense or very aggressive. We can also experience excessive sweating on our palms. One of the ways we can deal with this is to breathe through it. For example, when you have tight contractions along your upper chest, you can pretend that you are breathing through that area. It can sound weird in the beginning, but you can simply imagine or simply pretend. And the good thing about pretending is it doesn't even have to be real. It doesn't have to make sense. But you can pretend that when you inhale, your upper chest. I think my feedback. Okay. All right. And then when you exhale, you can pretend that your upper chest somehow softens. If the contraction is coming from the belly, for those who have gastrointestinal issues, you can. So, I think there's we need to mute. All right. Okay. If the contraction is coming from the belly, you can pretend you're breathing there. For example, place your hands on your tummy. You don't have to close your eyes. Place both hands on your belly, anywhere on your belly. And when you inhale, create that ballooning effect, like an expansion. Fill up your belly with air. When you exhale, feel your belly move away from your hands. Feel your navel pull inward. So that's one of the ways you can breathe through a particular spot in the body that feels a lot of anxiety. We will just call this your anxiety location. Ibig sabihin, ang anxiety location ay hindi lang tungkol sa isang venue or lugar. So hindi lang, pagpunta ka sa park, baka maraming tao, hindi din naman ako marerelax. It can also be a particular spot in the body. So when you do a body scan and you find out something that is intensely tight there, you can breathe through that. The third one is increase what is enjoyable and beneficial. More than anything else, I think we all need to take note of this, especially as carers. So plan a pleasure event or have your own pleasant calendar. You have your plans like, okay, this month I have to attend a conference, or today this is my schedule. How do you take care of yourself? Do you have plans on how you can relax? Do you have plans on how you can somehow take a little bit of retreat for yourself, something that is attainable? It doesn't have to be a full-on vacation. It can be like a 30-minute activity or a 1 hour activity. It can be your one whole day. I know someone who chooses a random day in a month, and that random day in a month, she will make sure that she will not work. She will just do whatever she wants. So she does this once a month. So you can have something like this, something that is very sustainable to you, because the moment we create something that is unattainable, we might get demotivated. All right. Okay, let's move on with depression. And if you have questions about anxiety, I think you can just put that in the chat box. All right, depression, a wide range of mental health problems, feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. Depression refers to a wide range of mental health problems characterized by the absence of a positive affect, a loss of interest and enjoyment in ordinary things and experiences, low mood, and a range of associated emotional, cognitive, physical, and behavioral symptoms. Distinguishing the mood changes between clinically significant degrees of depression, for example, major depression, and those occurring normally remains problematic. And it is best to consider the symptoms of depression as occurring on a continuum of severity. Here are some physical signs. Changes in sleep, changes in appetite, lack of concentration, loss of energy, lack of interest in activities, hopelessness or guilty thoughts, changes in movement, less activity or agitation, physical aches and pains, suicidal thoughts. Quite important to take note because you will see a lot of similarities from the physical signs of depression and anxiety. One of the highlights would be for depression, there's a total lack of interest when it comes to activities. For anxiety, you can be interested, but you worry a lot. In depression, there's really this strong, severe feeling of helplessness, and that leads to no interest at all, no interest to activities that used to offer you pleasure. Okay, so needless to say, don't we discourage self-diagnosis. When there's someone who approaches you and informs you, Doc, depressed po ako. And then later on, we will learn how to work with this during the motivational interviewing. Okay, ano ba yung iba pang obvious signs or early warning signs when depressed? So the feeling of helplessness or hopelessness, the excessive use of substances, smoking, drinking, using drugs, feeling unusually confused, forgetful, on edge, angry, upset, worried, or scared, yelling or fighting, experiencing severe mood swings, having persistent thoughts and memories you can't get out of your head, hearing voices or believing things that are not true, thinking of harming yourself or others, inability to perform daily tasks like taking care of your kids or getting to work or school. So this is a lot to remember. This is something that might be useful para lang as a quick guide. Okay, loses interest in anything really. Feels sad or easily cries. Difficulty concentrating. Low self-esteem. The feeling of relentless feeling of worthlessness and restlessness. Thoughts of death or suicide. Aside from physical signs, there are relational signs when it comes to depression. Isolation, intolerance, resentment, loneliness, distrust, no one cares. No one cares can often manifest in ayoko na, ginawa ko na talaga lahat, ayoko na talaga. And maybe when you start to suggest a few things, this mood of ayoko na will still be very obvious or prevalent. Parang sometimes whatever kind of support we offer, this ayoko na still prevails. And that's why later on we'll go through this basic counseling skill that might prove helpful. So depression is described that it's better seen as a continuum of severity. This infographic quickly shows you that. So what's life before depression? You can have full spectrum of emotions. You can be happy, you can be sad, you can be surprised. Early depression, mostly unpleasant emotions, sadness, fear, grief, shame, worthlessness, and the fully developed depression can show as numbness. Yeah. Okay. All right. With all of those things mentioned, what's most obvious, or in summary, when it comes to depression, there is this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. Is it possible to unlearn it? It is possible, maybe not fully unlearning it only with coping skills, and that's why it's important to seek professional support, maybe psychotherapy, or go to a psychiatrist and take your meds. But there are practices that you can teach your patients or your clients. One of the more practical practices, right? Practices that offer support aside from psychotherapy and taking medication would be a buzzword right now called mindfulness. And we will practice it para we know for ourselves. It's difficult to teach something when we have no idea what it is about. So, Doc Kate, let's go for it. Quick lang to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this one, everything that I'm sharing, you can already use this one as self-care also. Okay, same position like earlier. You can stand if you're very, very sleepy. You can sit down, but avoid leaning back. Step your feet on the floor. Feet are apart. Hands open to face the ceiling. And relax your hands on your lap. Okay, breathe in and out through the nose. So if you notice that you actually end up exhaling through the mouth because for some reason this happens, just think. Nose is for breathing, mouth is for eating. So inhale and exhale through the nose. Okay. So just breathe in a manner that feels very natural to you. Breathing in and breathing out through the nose. You can actually begin to observe if there's anything in the body that feels tight or aggressively tensed out. You may rest one hand on top of your chest. The other hand can rest on your belly. If you have your hand, one hand resting on your chest, it can be anywhere on the chest, the left side, the center, or the right side. If you have one hand resting on your belly, rest that hand on that area of the belly that moves more. So when you breathe in and out, the movement is more prominent, it's more pronounced. It's very, very obvious. Now, I will guide you in lengthening your exhale, and this might be challenging in the beginning, but try to please stay with it. Inhale naturally through the nose and exhale through the nose. In a few seconds, I will count off your exhale. Okay? You will be inhaling for 3 counts, and the exhale will be 4 counts. And then after a while, we will lengthen the exhale. You will exhale for 5 counts and then 6 counts. Okay, breathe in through the nose. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release that breath technique. Come back to the natural way you breathe. Sit in a manner that you feel very, very comfortable. And then just observe how you feel. If you feel very sleepy or a little bit brain fog, that's okay. You can shake out your arms, especially if you're very, very sleepy. Move your hips around. Okay, so normally when we lengthen the exhale, make sure that you're breathing in and out very, very softly. And lengthening the exhale can also slow down or calm down your system. It's very common to feel sleepy, relaxed, at ease, or maybe it creates a cooling effect in the body. Okay, all right. Let's move on to, oh, by the way, you can practice this any time of the day. But if you are about to drive, no. Baka antokin ka lalo. You can practice this the moment you wake up. When you wake up and you still feel very, very sleepy, you feel like you need a quick energizer, maybe just stand up. You can choose the tactical breathing earlier. It could also be this one if there are just too many thoughts in the mind, but please stand up when you do it. And then you can inhale for 3 counts. If that was too short, you can always increase your in-breath. And then you can always adjust as long as you work on lengthening the exhale and soften your breath. Okay, so aside from those breathing techniques, what else can we do as mental health first aid? Something that we can practice every day. First, safety. Listen without judgments and understand what they are worried about. From my observation and experience, clients are very, very sensitive to this. The moment they feel judged, ayaw na nila. And remember that one of the earlier signs of depression is there's this excessive belief na they are constantly being judged. So the moment they have proof na nadjudge sila, it's so hard to get through that hump. It's so hard to reach out. So this feeling of safety, the non-judgmental, safe environment that we can provide them is number one. To just make them feel that they are welcome, that they can share, that they can be themselves and express how they feel. Satisfaction, your patient's satisfaction or contentment. teach them coping skills and give them useful and uplifting information. Why? We won't be able to solve all issues in one session. In fact, it may not necessarily be it it won't even fall onto us solving or fixing their their problem, meaning they need to learn how to help themselves. They need to, when they ask you questions, we can lead them to the answer but not necessarily give the answer. I think we all know from experience that it is very difficult to change unless we really want to change. We can't just tell someone, magbago ka na or wag mo na yan gawin, unless we can ask them questions, self-inquiry, probing, na will lead them to their own answer. We can help them resource back na, oh, they can be resilient, they can be empowered, na, oh, they have their own choice. Okay. Connection. Practice empathy. Refer them to mental health care professionals like licensed clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, support groups. Ask them about their hobbies or what brings joy to their lives and offer suggestions. Okay, so this will lead us. Paano ba natin to gagawin lahat? Those breathing techniques, this mental health first aid, we will move on to a technique, a motivational interviewing technique that's widely used. It's called ORS, and ORS is an inherently empathic practice that highlights your patient's or client's goals, needs, and preferences. So the first one, O, asking open-ended questions. Affirmation, affirm, reflective listening, or reflect back to them. Summarize. Okay. So since it's an inherently empathic practice, when we start to include this in our sessions with them, this can actually already avoid to burn out because your sessions become more productive and meaningful. How can we effectively apply this? So when we ask open-ended questions, it's like you're gathering information to facilitate the dialogue. This definitely requires more than yes or no answers. You can start your questions with what, how. You can also start with words, phrases like tell me about or describe. One of the things I learned is that starting questions with why, something that is almost a default reflex for us, is people feel it's intrusive. So then we would have to learn how to ask what questions or how. For example, what do you want to talk today? Yeah. How can I help you? Something like that. Or tell me about your new treatment plan. Can you describe what this treatment plan, this treatment program's effect on you for the last 6 months? Something like that. Affirm. This is very important. We all like this. We all want to be validated. However, when we are very sensitive to the situation, we know when someone is not sincere. So this takes a lot of practice. So when we affirm, it's important to be sincere. It promotes self-efficacy. It acknowledges your clients or patients' difficulties. It validates their feelings and emphasizes past successes. For example, if they describe a difficult situation that they just it or some adverse effect that really made an impact on their everyday life or their work, then you can validate that by saying, that sounds tough. Mukhang mahirap nga yung pinagdaanan mo. Validate, and after you validate, you can tell them something like, but it seems like you went through it. You were able to figure things out on your own and that you were able to adjust. And then from there, you move on. You move on to reflective listening or almost clarifying what they mean. Because a lot of times, what they mean may not be what they say. There are a few ways of doing this. Repeating is simplest. You can even do this verbatim. So if they give you, present a problem, just repeat that back to them to make sure na naintindihan nyo talaga. And sometimes when you repeat something back to them, sabihin nila, ay, hindi pala yan yung ibig kong sabihin. That's not what I mean. So they will rephrase it themselves. So here, rephrasing substitutes words with synonymous terms, repeating something back using synonyms, repeating it in a way that's just slightly different. Okay? So, and then paraphrasing is a major restatement. It's almost a summary. Then reflect back their feeling, validate again. You can go back to affirming or validating, like, oo nga, mahirap nga yan. Yeah, something like that. It's not so much that we understand what they're going through. For example, saying, there's a difference between saying I understand versus validating na oo nga, mahirap nga yan. Okay? Summarizing or listening, reinforce what has been said, shows that we have been listening carefully. Summaries can link together feelings of ambivalence and promote clients or patients' discernment or decision-making skills. Okay. So this is the most important part. All of them are important, but you want to make sure that you really end with a summary. Now, sometimes there are clients or patients who talk nonstop. So it's important to give an interim summary. So this happens in between. For example, when it's like the case that Kate gave earlier na parang, oh my God, ang daming nagtanong ka lang, kamusta ka na, anong balita, OMG, ang dami nang na-present na complex issues, kaya ka na shock, diba? So, yung interim summary mo could be like, let me just stop you there. These are the things that I've gathered from you. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Is there something from these 3 points that you would like to flesh out or focus on right now? Kasi kapag sobrang madaming information, it will be very difficult to remember all of them. And if it's difficult to remember all of them, your patient or client might leave more confused. And you, as a practitioner, you'll probably feel a sense of, shucks, nagawa ko ba yung best ko para tumulong? Or parang, sayang, hindi ko to nasabi. Something like that. So, it's really two-way na when we start to practice this, we can not only help them out, but also help ourselves. We are not only clarifying for them, but we're also clarifying for ourselves. Nagets ba natin? Yun ba talaga yung problem niya? Yun ba talaga yung gusto niyang sabihin? Okay. ORS as a compassionate practice eliminates or prevents practitioner burnout because the session is more productive and meaningful. You can go as far as you can go even without solving everything. Okay, what can we do? Here are examples of open-ended questions. Practicing ORS doesn't happen one day, so it might be helpful to practice the first one, letter O, asking open-ended questions. Anxiety, for example. What situations trigger your anxiety? What interactions trigger your anxiety? What locations or places trigger your anxiety? Now, Rad earlier asked you to get your pen, pencil, and paper. Maybe you can think of a question that starts with what, how, or starts with the words describe or tell me about. Please write it down. Okay? And then depression. So what situations trigger feelings of hopelessness and helplessness? What interactions trigger feelings of hopelessness and helpless? Oh, parang umulit siya. Oh, interactions. And then what locations or places trigger feelings of hopelessness and helplessness? So the what questions are clarifying questions. They can really be specific about feelings, interactions, and locations that make them feel hopeless and helpless. So as your practice, can you write down questions that starts with what, how, phrases, describe, or tell me about? Yeah. And then please remember, all the steps for ORS must be used in one interaction. ORS is a client-centered model of key skills that will help you create an interactive encounter focused on your patients or clients' goals, needs, and preferences. And that is why it's important to remember that we would like to ask them questions that will lead them to their own answers. It's not so much that, again, we understand just cognitively what they're going through, or it's not only important that we can empathize, but it's essential that they themselves can feel empowered. Okay, remember there is something that can be done. Always take them seriously by listening without judgment and understanding their concerns. Be sincere and genuine as they relate their pain and concerns. Offer them useful and uplifting information. Show deep empathy by practicing ORS. Don't show fear even in the worst case scenario. And then teach them to take responsibility. Have an action plan. So the action plan can actually already help people who have self-harm, who are showing behavior of self-harm, or who are informing you that they already have suicidal thoughts. So this is also where ORS can really come in. All right, we can't do everything by ourselves. In fact, mental health practitioners, they are really working in collaboration with so many centers and so many individuals. These are just a few that can help you out. Please, you can refer them. You can give this to them instead of giving your personal number. Maybe you can add this to your clinical protocol. All right, and then being good to yourself is good for others. The practices taught earlier, that those are something you can apply every day. So learn self-soothing practices, but also reflect what are the long-term individual, community, and structural care. So this goes back to maybe your own clinical protocol. Kasi pag when you take care of that TB, you can also take care of yourself. And these are just a few things you can do to reinforce self-care. You can quietly recite in your mind, I am on my side, I'm taking a stand for myself, I matter too. So when increasing your own well-being cultivates patience, cooperation, and you start to have more caring relationships. And helping yourself also help others. And then this one, people often think they need to be hard on themselves to stay motivated, but the opposite is generally true. Use guidance rather than criticism to stay on your course. Okay, I think that ends, yes, that ends my lecture. Thank you for listening. I hope you are there.